I'm Dave Greenwood, and this is Overcoming Distractions. If you are an adult with ADHD, a busy professional, an entrepreneur, a high achiever, or just need some strategies to navigate your adult ADHD, you're in the right place. Who am I? I'm an entrepreneur with ADHD and the author of 2 books, Overcoming Distractions and Overcoming Burnout. I coach and mentor people just like you, and together we navigate the ups and downs of adult ADHD. From getting out of our own way to helping people just like you thrive in the workplace. That's what I do. Want more info on working with me? Hit overcomingdistractions.com. Ready? Let's get to today's podcast. All right, gang, we are back. As you know, it's Overcoming Distractions, and you know I love a good entrepreneur ADHD story, because that's what Overcoming Distractions was founded on, a book about ADHD entrepreneurs, or entrepreneurs with ADHD, however you want to speak about it. So Mikey, my guest, and I have something in common, the term ants in his pants. My grandmother used to always say that. She came over from England. She probably didn't get me. So, and Mikey's mom used to tell him that as well. So, but we always think about the negatives of ADHD. And I just want to be clear, many busy professionals, some of you out there now, you still struggle to this day with managing, thriving, putting it all together, maybe even getting out of our own ways. So I totally get that. But I am really confident that we learn a lot by people who have been able to manage effectively and actually build something using their brain, their ADHD brain. So Mikey Goldman, he's the founder of Quiet Mind. He's the inventor of the first of its kind weighted pillow. And we're going to talk about that invention and product shortly. But I want to tackle Mikey's ADHD entrepreneurial journey first. So welcome, sir.
Thank you so much for having me. And I love that you started out with the ants in my pants, because yes, that is something I always say. And it does sound a little outdated when you put it that way, but it's the earliest memory I have of my mom going, "What's going on with this person here? What's going on with my child?"
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, I grew up in the 60s and 70s. So I can, you can tell from what generation my grandparents came. and yeah, they didn't get my my quirks and my behaviors and my ripping the house apart. So
Yeah, I mean, especially because I had an older sister and a younger brother, but I was the one who just could not sit still for the life of me, always moving around. And it was just these emotional outbursts. And you're going really high on the spectrum or really low on the spectrum and trying to figure out, what is this? Why is he acting like this? Because it didn't seem normal to, when you compare it to the other two.
yeah. Yeah. I in the beginning of Overcoming Distractions, I wrote about how I ran through the front storm door of my house as a child. I didn't even hit the latch. I went right through it, glass and all, and just went down over 5 or 6 stairs, had Band-Aids all over me. And that was the time where my mother finally said, let's go have a professional check this kid out. Now it was getting dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, well, and the dangerous thing too, that is something where you're constantly seeking this like extra level of stimulation to, I always tell people it's almost to feel alive, which I kind of equate to the dopamine, ratio in me, where people with ADHD, sometimes they say you have lower dopamine. So to really feel like a normal person, you need to do that extra risk. And that risk or, something dangerous, I was always doing growing up, because then I felt like I was really living. I was like, okay, now I can do this because this is more fun and I'm feeling something. For the simple, boring task just wouldn't do it for me. So I was, yes, always bandaged, bruised, cut up. I would rappel from trees and I'd have a tree break on top of me and my mom would run out being like, "What are you doing?" And it was just like, I don't know. Hey, we're having fun, but it was
Yeah.
extreme fun.
Oh yeah. Well, my running through the door wasn't like seeking danger or anything. Mine was
Oh,
like
okay.
forgetting to hit the latch.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So there was like that one piece that I forgot. So, but
Okay.
So I want to get into the pillow. Obviously, this sounds really cool. And I don't often, in full disclosure, chat about a lot of products on the podcast unless I think it can really help people. But we alluded to things a little bit. Can you tell me a little bit more about maybe some of the challenges growing up with ADHD, other than like hurting ourselves? I mean, was it classroom, and then on the flip side, were there things you were really good at as a kid?
Yeah, growing up with ADHD and, especially pre-diagnosis, I think I was diagnosed in middle school. It would be something as simple as just driving anywhere and not being able to figure out why I can't really sit still in this car and kind of losing control because I'm just uncomfortable. I being told to sit there, something about it didn't work. And then in the classroom, I'd be staring at the teacher, but I'd be thinking about something else, or I'd be hearing something else. And part of my ADHD was a sensory processing disorder. So if I heard a clock ticking, just tick, 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 that's all I would focus on. If I heard someone sniffling, that's all I would focus on. The paper ruffling, that's all. And so for a classroom setting, incredibly difficult because that is the primary, sound coming into me versus where maybe it should be the teacher. Or then if you're taking a test and there's literally the TikTok or the paper, I'm just thinking that, and then all of a sudden it's 45 minutes later. I'm going, oh my gosh, I didn't do anything. And so those were kind of the early things where it goes, this isn't normal. What's going on here? That was part of the main issue. And then once the diagnosis came, it kind of made sense, but still trying to manage the ADHD when you're a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, this was 20 years ago or something. It was a little taboo still. It was, hey, maybe that's not something. And so they didn't really have a great way of handling it, minus extra time or, hey, go on stimulants. And we didn't do that option.
Yeah, yeah. I know what you're saying about the sensory, because when the family, we go out to dinner and we get leftovers and they put them in those styrofoam containers and we put it in the back seat, all the way home, I'm crawling out of my skin. I can't take the noise to this day. It drives me nuts. It's all I can hear.
I mean, the noise, I even have smells where if I'm in a car or a plane or somewhere and there's a smell coming through that's, kind of on the extreme end, inside of me it boils up more and more and more and more. And you don't, now I'm able to somewhat temper it, but it's this internal losing control where you're about to explode because whatever's happening with that processing is not, going through you normally and creating this equilibrium, and then it turns poor. And even with a sleepover, I would sleep over at my friends' houses when I was a kid, and I'm going, why am I the only person who can't sleep because their clock is ticking? How is every other kid like this? This doesn't make any sense. And
Yeah.
so, it's hard to manage when you are trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But, it's just there are things that we experience that the some people just don't understand, and it is what it is. So we just need to keep bringing attention to it. As you kind of entered adulthood and embarked on careers, um, were there challenges entering adulthood? What type of careers did you do? Were you successful at them? Did you struggle?
Yeah, and so to which I forgot to answer with the previous question on what did I excel at anything, did I struggle, and sort of into this new question. I was always good with my hands, and
Hmm.
that was the part that didn't make sense. Was I could go to a classroom, couldn't really understand the information, and I couldn't regurgitate it back. But if it was something to build or using my hands to learn, or there was this visual aspect of it, I excelled. And it didn't really make any sense, but I won engineer of the year in my junior year in high school, where simply because I was better at people at figuring out how to build some contraption, whether it was gearboxes, wires, electrical, I could just understand it because I was physically doing it versus let me read the paper and then try and further read the book and figure it out. And so then when I got to college, then it was okay. I guess I can get in the background later. But trying to figure out how did I, how did I, what could I excel at? I was on stimulants in college, and so that really changed everything. And then I go, now I can figure it out. Okay, this works. But then they came with tons of side effects, and that's sort of what led me down this other path of career change. But building was always something I excelled at. And then when I got on stimulants, then I was okay, but they came at a cost.
Yeah, yeah. No, I was a Ritalin kid, and I actually took myself off it right before high school. And I remember the freshman year in high school was probably the worst school year of my entire life. Just the adjustment. I just didn't want to be on, medication anymore. Um,
Yeah,
but I basically flunked out of freshman year in high school. So
yeah, and because like you, when I got the diagnosis, it was, hey, you can go on medication and we'll give you extra time. And my parents are going, we're not going to do that for a middle schooler. But my mom, she's a nurse practitioner, so she loves to know everything about you know any medication, bandage, putting something. She's like, no, we're not doing this. I've seen the worst part of this. And so it was okay. Once you get to college, yeah, you can make your own decision. Started on Vyvanse. This was back in 2007. Vyvanse was brand new. First year, it was actually sold. Unbelievable. Worked incredibly well. Came with crazy side effects. But it was the first time I'm going, I can read this whole thing. I can read the whole book. I can focus. I'm flying through everything. Oh my gosh. Now I can fit in. Oh, but I can't sleep. Hey, doctor. So I don't know what to sleep, how to sleep. What do you recommend? Here, we're going to put you on Klonopin.
hmm,
So that'll help you sleep. I'm going, okay, cool. Klonopin. That sounds good. I don't know what it is, but the doctor's telling me to do it. Then I go, hey, now I'm actually a little more tired the next day, and I'm crashing at noon. Okay, we'll put you on an Adderall. And so you're going to do the long-term Vyvanse in the morning and then short-term Adderall in the afternoon. Then this is the cycle that starts happening, and it's, oh wait, but now I'm maybe getting a little bit more anxiety. Well, here's Xanax just in case. And then I'm going, okay, so I have all these things. I'm doing well, but oh, maybe sometimes if there's finals and I'm studying really late, I don't know how to manage all these. What do you recommend? Oh, here's Ambien. And so it was this sort of cycle of going, every side effect, instead of just let me tell a natural way to do it, we're just going to put you on something else. And although I'm getting through college, doing really well, the cost is my mental health, my mental well-being, and a lot of other things.
yeah. I mean, I want to be clear. I'm not anti-medication. It does help some people if it's, you know, if it's used properly. I mean, I do know many people who just, they can't get their work done, but they also couple that with other things such as exercise and mindfulness and, many other things but I think what you're talking about is literally a cocktail of just, this experience and that experience. And I'm not a big fan of what you just described. I don't, yeah, that sounds actually dangerous. And again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not anti-medication, but that sounds like it's just like, here's another thing, here's another thing.
Yeah, and I always call it kind of the overprescription, overprescribed generation,
Yeah.
where for a while there, it was, hey, I had this problem. The only way to treat it is medication. It wasn't, I have a problem, and let's suggest the natural ways to do it. Let's suggest exercise, diet, health, whatever supplements. It was okay. If you have this problem, we're going to go medication. And for my case, it was just a snowball effect. And, to your point, I do say the same thing. Medication, if done right, it does work incredibly well.
Yeah.
I was in the unfortunate camp of just sort of getting it to spiral out of control. But I've always seen the benefits. And even when I got off of it, uh, saying, okay, hey, well, I'm curious to hear too when you got off of it, because when I quit cold turkey from everything, lethargic, appetite, sleepy. It took me a while to really regain my kind of function, but I think that's also partly because I was on so many things. When
Yeah.
you got off yours, did you kind of have the same experience, or was it a little easier?
Well, it was a very long time ago, but I can tell you that I walked around. I went to a vocational school, and I didn't even know where my classes were. I mean, I'm talking the entire year. I would walk around the hallways. I was late for classes, or I didn't know where I was going, and it was just like, yeah. And I guess if I look back those many years, I probably just lethargic and just in a fog. Uh, it got better, but yeah, freshman year
Mm.
in high school was just a complete dumpster fire for me. So, and that's probably why, or at least a good part of it. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, that was my biggest thing was I was incredibly lethargic, and that first go at getting off everything, it took a while to kind of regain form, function, regain that energy, regain just sort of the daily lifestyle. But I have tried them since, and once I got off everything, there was probably a 2 year gap. And then I said, okay, let me see if I can actually, manage with certain ones. And I stayed away from the Adderall and Vyvanse ones and tried some other things. It didn't really work as well. And then just said, let's figure out a new way to do this.
Yeah.
And kind of looked elsewhere.
Yeah. So let's talk about the weighted pillow. I'm going to jump around here a little bit, and all of us ADHDers can do this, and they can
Yeah.
follow us, right? So, because I want to make sure I get this in. So, what was the aha moment that uh, that had you arrive at the idea that a weighted pillow might help those of us with ADHD and others?
Yeah, and it kind of tails on to what we were just talking about, where I was on all these different stimulants, prescriptions, medications for a handful of things, mental health, deteriorated well-being, everything. And so when I got off, the goal was, okay, let me do this myself. Let me find natural supplements. Let me find natural solutions. Let me just find the natural things, remedies that can help with this. And so it changed everything. I mean, I was drinking coffee at the time. I now drink matcha because I learned that matcha was actually better for some people with ADHD, because instead of this sort of big spike and bigger crash, there's theanine in it, and theanine keeps you calm, relaxes you when the caffeine comes. And then all of a sudden I started taking theanine at night with magnesium and melatonin. And so it was these natural things to quiet my mind. And I started taking fish oil, exercise, all these things. And so I'm figuring out, okay, how do you manage your ADHD without the supplements? Routine. That is the biggest thing possible for me. If I have routine, then I stay on a good path, because that is the number one thing that keeps me in line, kind of like a medication would. But then I discovered a weighted blanket, and I go, okay, deep pressure stimulation, pressure, touch. When you put it on your body, it's supposed to then, release these hormones to calm you down. This sounds promising. Let me try it. Thinking this is, take it everywhere with me. I get a weighted blanket. It's hot, it's heavy, it's claustrophobic. And I thought maybe moving from my bed to the couch would be super easy. I think I did it one time and I go, nope, we're going to just stay on my bed. And I wrestled with it over and over every single night. And I had a pillow under my arm. I had a pillow on top of me that I slept with. And I just go, let me just get a weighted pillow. This, like, enough with this blanket. Search for one, and it turns out they didn't exist. And something in that moment, I don't know why I became more than obsessed with this, but it consumed me.
Hmm.
Something where the way it kind of entered my brain, and I heard weighted pillow, and I thought this makes a lot of sense, because it would be a natural solution to treat people with ADHD. It would calm my ants in my pants. It would calm my fidgeting. It would calm my mind. I just sort of, one thing after another, I go, I got to do this. Made a prototype, learned it worked better than weighted blanket, which I can talk on the science later on this. And then I hyper focused, and it was just off the races.
Wow. I know I had a frozen shoulder off and on, and one of the things they recommended was, like, if you're a side sleeper, is have the pillow like between your chest and your arm, because then it doesn't like stretch, because your arm, if you're a side sleeper, then you're basically stretching your shoulder all night. And I started doing that, and even just that, a regular old pillow from a couch, I found some comfort in it, and I didn't really know why. Obviously my shoulder felt a little better, but there was more to it. So is it like a similar kind of science, so to speak?
Yeah, so that's funny you mentioned that, because most people have probably in their life grabbed a pillow and just hugged it and
Mm.
held on to it, cuddled it, cradled it. And that's what I was doing too. I was cradling it on the side of me. And there's this comfort that comes with it, because when you cradle something, when you hug something, when you hold something, you release oxytocin. So oxytocin is your love hormone, the cuddle hormone. It's what helps us with social bonding. It helps you feel more safe, more secure, and it alleviates this sense of loneliness, or alleviates loneliness.
Yeah.
And when you're doing that, it's why there's this gravitation towards just holding something, because you're doing it, you're going, yeah, I just feel more comfortable. And so a lot of people, and I was already doing that. And then when you add the weight element to it, it takes it up a whole other notch. But so when you're doing that, you're probably finding comfort because you're releasing this oxytocin, and it's giving you those safety feelings, those security feelings, that companionship, going, yeah, I feel pretty good. And it's the sense of touch. So it's tapping into your senses to give you this comfortable feeling, which people are already doing without even the weighted pillow.
Is there direct connection between the pillow and like the science of a hug, like with somebody, or is there, how does,
Yes, and so yeah, and that's exactly it. Because so you hug somebody and you release oxytocin, and
mm,
that's what helps you feel connected to them, the social bond to them. And when you can hug yourself actually. If you swallow yourself and kind of rub your shoulders for 10 seconds or more, then you're able to release the same feeling. And so with the pillow, any pillow, weighted pillow or not, you can get that feeling and you get that hug mentality. And then it gives you the oxytocin bump, which is what makes you feel more secure, calm, and you'll be sitting there. And so whatever it is, it's kind of mimicking a hug. And when I was designing the pillow, I was going through COVID, and this came to me in, I think it came April of 21. And as I start building it, I was lonely as hell. And I'm going, I need a hug. Oh my gosh. Like I've been by myself, I'm single at the time. And so part of the design in the pillow that was created, the weighted pillow, was to mimic a hug. And that's something we promote because the blankets can't do that. You can't hug a blanket. And the amount of people who are lonely now, I mean, the Surgeon General came out and said loneliness is the next epidemic.
yeah,
And so that was a huge factor when designing these things, was to give people this hug mentality, let it mimic a hug, and release those feelings that people might not be getting.
yeah. I also, and people who listen to me know that my second book was about burnout, and a lot of ADHDers do experience burnout. And again, I'm not a doctor, not a therapist, but what I've seen is a lot of ADHDers not only experience burnout maybe quicker than others, but harder than others. And one part of burnout that I don't think people totally recognize is the loneliness, where um, they don't have anybody to talk to. Not only that, they don't want to talk to anybody because they're fearful that they might disclose something. Can you see a scenario where people who are really, almost chronic stress and ADHD would benefit from that?
From the weighted pillow,
Yeah,
or from just,
yeah, from the
yeah.
weighted
It's
pillow. Yeah,
so the background on weighted products is what the weighted blankets tap to. It's called this deep pressure stimulation.
yeah,
So it's going to increase your serotonin. It's going to increase your dopamine. It's going to increase your melatonin. Serotonin is your mood boosting hormone. Dopamine, focus and alertness, the one that us ADHDers, we lack or we miss out on. It's our favorite hormone. And when you have an anxiety attack, when you're stressed out, your cortisol's through the roof. It's shooting up. And
yeah.
so when you put deep pressure on you, stimulation, the pillow, it's going to push those down, and it's going to push cortisol down to reduce those feelings of stress, anxiety. It's actually going to lower your heart rate. It's going to switch you from fight or flight to rest and digest, to control your nervous system and get you back to a feeling of, okay, I've managed my stress. That sense of touch is giving me this sort of alleviation of all those feelings that I was having. It's going to slow down that kind of internal monologue that you're racing and panicking from,
Mm,
and it'll help you reset. And that's why when, for an ADHDer's mind, and when I was doing this, I go, this makes so much sense to me. I can hold this thing. I can quiet those internal thoughts that are, debilitating to me at times. And I can give me a way to reset, ground myself, and find the comfort in my own body, which was really hard before with an ADHD mind, especially during COVID when you're super lonely. And
mm,
it's tapping into this super simple science that weighted blankets started, and then kind of I evolved.
yeah. You mentioned the weighted blanket. So, I mean, do you see a benefit to the weighted blanket, even though there might be different, uh, they affect, say, the body and the mind different ways. So you're not anti-weighted blanket, are you? Or is it's just another way of kind of getting there? Or
Yeah, I'm not anti-weighted blanket. We do like to say we're better than a weighted blanket, but I also see a world where Quiet Mind does bring a weighted blanket to the market at some point. And there's two different feelings going on, because the swaddle effect, which you can't get a swaddle effect from a pill as much, and that is really powerful. And there are all psychological benefits to being swaddled. People always kind of talk about how it brings you back to the womb almost, or when you're a baby being held and hugged. And so having a blanket where you're able to be swaddled, it's warmer, that is really nice. And so there's just two sort of different functions where that works well for that. But then with the pillow, being able to hold on to something, being able to pull the sides around you to give you the hug and rest your arms on it, it's kind of, which option do you want? The one reason I do say, maybe anti-weighted blanket is the portability aspect of it and the moving it around. And that was the part where I personally struggled with, because even though it's 15 pounds and I was thinking this should be easier, something about the way compiling it all up, picking it up, it just doesn't travel well and it really becomes a pain in the butt. And so that was one of the things that the pillow just became more portable, more convenient, easier to get the same effects. But for the weighted blanket, being swaddled is very comforting.
I could see that. It would probably a weighted blanket would take an entire suitcase if you traveled.
Yeah, exactly. And even, the companies who come out with travel weighted blankets, they'll say, here's a 10-pound weighted blanket. And then you're supposed to take a 10-pound weighted blanket through the airport in this little bag. And then when you bring it, all ruffles out or unfolds. And it's just not as easy as throw the pillow in your suitcase. In my opinion, travels, grab it, even if it's the same weight, something about the compact nature of it.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think this is fantastic. So, um, as a busy entrepreneur with ADHD, you're running a growing company. Um, what are some of the must-haves that you need? You mentioned routine, but what are some of the must-haves that you need to have in place in your life, whether it's personally or professionally, that allow you to thrive as an adult with ADHD?
It really goes back to this idea of routine. And it's something I think partly why college was a struggle, because college, you don't even understand what a routine is. You're just trying to figure out yourself, life. You're trying to make friends. You're trying to just adjust to not being at home. But routine for me is the single most important thing, because it takes the indecision out of my life, or it takes the decision out of my life where I can wake up in the morning, I'll go work out, I come home, I make the same breakfast every day. I shower. I wear the same T-shirt every day. I always, say this. I love these glory shirts, kind of these athleisure shirts, because they're a long sleeve. The way they feel on my skin, it kind of goes into that tactile experience. They're loose. They're comfortable. Doesn't irritate me. But that right there is something where if I don't have that, and I look at my shirts and I go, maybe it's gonna be like this today, or maybe I'll do this today, maybe this, and then it's this waffling back and forth. I know I'm not going anywhere. I'm gonna do the same thing I do every day. But if I don't have that just basic routine of you're wearing this, I will sit at there or sit at my, clothes and say, let me maybe think about a scenario where I do need that, and everything's lost. And so it's starting with routine, same lunch every day, basically the same dinner every day, having this motion, and then my mental health part of it, where it's okay. I know I need to get up. I know I need to go listen to a podcast and just breathe. I need to walk outside. But I think like I mentioned, the single most important thing is just that routine to keep the internal monologue at bay.
Yeah. No, I think that's important. I think I've made a habit over the years of starting that routine the night before, like something as simple as the coffee machine is all set and on the timer before I go to bed, because if I have to wait even 5 minutes for coffee in the morning, that's a disaster. Like you say, the clothes, understanding what you need to do the following day, and you're right. I think it's misunderstood's the wrong word, but the level of impact that a routine can have. Now, many ADHDers don't like routine, but it really is necessary for us to, because if we don't have a routine, like you say, the morning routine, then you start the day off on the wrong track, then that's the way you're going to finish it, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah.
It's totally gone. And it's actually kind of, I was just talking about this with, my social media manager, and I think there is a benefit to it though, where letting your mind actually, run wild with your ADHD, which I say a lot of Sundays happens, where if I know I'm not working and it's like, I'm going to let the ADHD have the best of me this, today, where you actually just get to enjoy yourself. You get to enjoy how you operate, how you feel. And I think that's really powerful for your well-being, because then you go, cool, I got this out of the way. I let me take over, and I actually enjoyed it because I accepted this way today, and I had my day. And knowing that sort of that accepting that comes with it, and just letting yourself run with ADHD, there's a yin and yang that's really powerful between that and then the routine side of things that actually makes both of them a little bit stronger and easier to do. But I'm just curious because I'd be interested. What else do you do that helps you? Because I always love knowing the ADHD side of things.
Um, like I said, a lot of it is the night before. I try and bulletproof my morning by getting what I can get done the night before. Like I said, it's the coffee, it's the I would even back that up to Sunday night where we may cook a lot of food that to get us through a good chunk of the week. Dinner time, those types of things, like you say, the lunches. I don't want to get to noon and go, okay, what do I want for lunch? Oh, we don't have anything in the house. Now I'm starving. Or you get to dinner and then now you got to spend an hour making something. So that's a lot of more of a kind of a weekly routine to kind of bulletproof certain parts of the day. And then something that I have done that I learned from another well-known entrepreneur with ADHD is I always put like a top 3 or 4 in place the night before I leave my desk, to make sure that I understand when I sit down here the next morning that I do have a game plan. I know what needs to be done, because the worst thing I think we can do is get to our desk and go, okay, what are we going to do? Because as you indicated, like with the clothes, now it's that decision fatigue, or you've got 25 things and you want to do them all right now. At least you have a game plan the night before. You can hopefully sleep easy. You get up, we know what you have to do. Those are kind of the main things that I do. But you're right. Sometimes you just want to sit here and let your mind wander, and that's totally cool too. So
Yeah, yeah, you
yeah,
got to take a you day.
yeah, exactly. So cool. All right. So it's onequietmind.com, right? That's where they can find a variety of the pillows.
Yeah, so it's onequietmind.com, ONE quietmind.com. The company's name is Quiet Mind. We're at Quiet Mind on Instagram. And we just came out with, I guess they're coming out, and when is our thing launch? It's probably gonna be early or middle of March. We have our little 1.5 minis coming out, which I call these sort of fidget free focus tools,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm always moving around. I like something in my hand, so I wanted just a mini version of it. And it's a great thing to squeeze and hold, and kind of act as that little grab and go thing next to your computer while you're working. And then we have a quiz on the website to place you with the pillow for your size, size quiz. And to one of the points we mentioned really early at the conversation was, I always say that the weighted pillow is another tool in your toolbox to supplement your other mental health defense, your ADHD defense, your well-being, or just to simply unwind. Because I do know that medication for so many people is powerful. And this is just another thing that you can add to your toolbox and go, will this work? Will it not work? Let me supplement it with what I'm already doing. And it's a natural, convenient solution that is quite enjoyable. So it works pretty well, which is fun.
Yeah, no, that's a great point and a great way to wrap up. So, um, thank you for connecting and coming on. I think this is great. Like I said, I don't often talk about various products, but I can definitely see the value in this. So thanks again, and come back anytime.